In 2019, the European Union embarked on a historic endeavour by signing a trade agreement with Mercosur, the economic and political bloc comprising Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay. This landmark deal, after 2 decades of negotiations, had the potential to shape the future of Europe and Latin America in profound ways. It promised remarkable economic benefits, including lower food prices, job creation and increased investments. The stage was set for a true win-win scenario with falling prices, rising salaries, and revitalized economies. But amidst this promise of prosperity, there emerged a troubling roadblock, and its name was France. Sadly, France has developed a knack for obstructing trade agreements that could be transformative for the European economy. They've blocked deals with the US, threatened deals with Australia and New Zealand, and caused headaches for European trade. It was even one of the reasons why the United Kingdom left the EU. In this video, we will explain how France blocks these agreements, why they do it, and if there's any way to stop them from blocking the Mercosur deal. But before moving any further, we would ask you to subscribe to the channel for more updates. France has been blocking the signing of the trade deal between the European Union and Mercosur for the past 4 years. This is not an isolated incident, as France has a history of obstructing trade agreements that could greatly benefit the European economy. It has blocked trade talks with the United States, threatened to block a trade deal with Australia, and put a halt on the New Zealand-European Union trade agreement. France's actions is hindering Europe's economic progress and development, and it poses a significant challenge to European trade. In December 2015, world leaders gathered in Paris to discuss climate change and set environmental goals known as the Paris Accords. France is using these agreements as a basis to block the Mercosur trade agreement. They argue that increased trade with Latin American countries, particularly Brazil, could harm the environment. France claims that if the Mercosur agreement goes through, Brazil might destroy a large part of the Amazon rainforest to expand agriculture and sell more products to Europe. They even cited a French government report stating that the agreement could result in the destruction of thousands of square kilometers of the Amazon each year. France sees Brazil's disregard for climate agreements as a betrayal and believes it should not be rewarded with a trade deal. Additionally, France raises concerns about health risks associated with products from South American countries. They argue that the use of growth hormones, antibiotics, and inadequate infection control measures in Mercosur farms could pose a serious threat to European consumers. France insists that the trade agreement should only be accepted if South American producers meet the same sanitary standards as their European counterparts. While these concerns may seem valid, there is a suspicion that they are mere excuses. Critics argue that France consistently blocks trade agreements using similar justifications, regardless of the country involved. They claim that France's motives are more self-centered and driven by economic interests. They point out that Europeans already consume products from Mercosur countries, including meat, despite the absence of a formal agreement. If health risks were the primary concern, France could have called for an immediate ban on imports from South America. Furthermore, the argument regarding environmental issues becomes less compelling as Brazil's political landscape changes. Former President Bolsonaro, who showed little commitment to environmental protection, has been replaced by Lula da Silva, a self-proclaimed defender of the Amazon and climate action. Additionally, the Mercosur agreement already includes measures to protect the Amazon and the environment. So, the real motive behind France's blocking of the Mercosur trade agreement appears to be driven by protectionism and safeguarding its local industries, particularly its powerful cattle breeders. This motive can be traced back to a previous incident involving Danone, the iconic French yogurt brand. When rumors spread that a foreign company, PepsiCo, was interested in acquiring Danone, it sparked a political scandal in France. The Prime Minister and President made public statements emphasizing the need to defend France's interests and protect French companies from foreign acquisitions. This incident, dubbed Danone diplomacy or strategic yogurt foreign, highlighted France's inclination towards protecting and privileging its domestic industries, even at the expense of broader economic development and other sectors within the country. It became clear that France had a strong inclination to shield its local industries from foreign competition. In the case of the Mercosur trade agreement, the import of meat and agricultural products from Latin American countries poses a threat to French cattle breeders. These breeders, who hold significant influence and can exert pressure on the French government, argue that the agreement is unfair. They claim that foreign countries use substances such as growth hormones and fertilizers that are illegal in Europe, allowing them to produce meat at a much cheaper cost. As a result, European farmers who cannot use these hormones struggle to compete with the lower prices offered by Latin American producers. The French farmers assert that if the livestock industry goes bankrupt, it will lead to a significant loss of jobs and have detrimental effects on the country as a whole. They argue that any decrease in income and job losses will not be limited to farmers alone, but will also impact processors and retailers within the industry. The Mercosur agreement does not necessarily mean unfair competition for French farmers. While concerns have been raised regarding growth hormones and fertilizers, Europe has already banned the importation of growth hormones, and the treaty would not change this regulation. The use of certain fertilizers in Latin America may reduce production costs, but the significant cost difference between Mercosur and Europe cannot be solely attributed to fertilizers. Factors like land, labor, and energy costs in Mercosur countries contribute significantly to the cost disparity. Additionally, shipping costs pose a challenge for Mercosur countries, balancing the competition to some extent. Regarding the potential economic consequences and job losses for France, it is true that French farmers may experience reduced sales, creating difficulties. However, consumers across Europe would have access to cheaper products, benefiting their wallets. Moreover, the agreement opens opportunities for other industries, such as industrial companies, to increase sales in Latin America, potentially compensating for any job losses and even boosting overall employment. It's essential to note that the agreement with Mercosur already includes limitations on livestock product imports to protect the European livestock industry. However, France seeks to eliminate livestock products from the agreement entirely, which goes against the original purpose and would be unacceptable to the South American countries involved. The resistance from France, driven by lobbying pressures and protectionism, seems to be working against the broader interests of Europe. While it is understandable for countries to protect their own industries, it raises questions about the European Union's purpose. Is it meant to protect individual countries at the expense of damaging trade, free enterprise, and consumers' interests? Comparatively, in the past, Spain had to make compromises in its agricultural and fishing industries due to a trade agreement with Morocco. It is worth considering whether France should also make similar concessions for the benefit of the entire region. Furthermore, the arrival of Lula da Silva to power in Brazil appears to have diminished the climate change argument that France has relied on. Additionally, inflationary pressures following the war in Ukraine and the favourable stance of the new Spanish presidency on the EU Council towards the agreement create an opportunity to move the Mercosur Treaty forward later this year. Joseph Borrell, the EU's foreign affairs representative, has called for 2023 to be the year of Latin America in Europe and the year of Europe in Latin America, emphasizing the importance of strengthening ties between the two regions. The future of the European-Mercosur agreement depends on France's willingness to prioritize the European project over its own interests. Will the agreement ultimately go through? Should France continue protecting its livestock lobbies? The consequences of hindering international trade could lead to unforeseen outcomes, similar to Brexit. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. And do subscribe to the channel if you like our content. We will catch you in the next one. Bye.